everyone. Welcome to Lights on Blackfriars. My name is Aubrey Whitlock. I'm the Director of Education here. Lights on Blackfriars is a monthly series where we bring all kinds of behind-the-scenes content to the stage, introducing you to creators like these folks, and all kinds of stuff that's meant to enhance your enjoyment of what you see on our stage. So tonight, we have what we're calling the pirate panel, because we've got three creatives, two performers, and three creatives behind the scenes for our original world premiere play, The Pirate Ballad of Bonny and Reed. So we've got Chris Seiler, Sara Linares, and Peter Simon Hilton. Give it up for them. All right. Yes. So before I jump into my questions, and I'll ask a few questions and for about a half an hour, and then I'll open it up to you all for your questions. I would love to know, like, you can read their formal bios where they brag about all of their accolades in the program, that's our digital program or our printed program. But I would love to know from you all, please tell us the story of how you came to be doing what you're doing here for this play. So how did you come to be the playwright for this play? Because I know you all are multifaceted. You've got all kinds of hats that you wear, but you're the playwright, translator, and music captain, as well as performers.
So I'm the co-playwright,
yes,
and also,
yes,
full disclosure, I'm married to the other side of playwrights.
Oh, that's how you got into it.
Nepo baby.
Now it's all making sense, isn't it?
But in reality, Vanessa and I have written lots of shows together, and also do a lot of creative writing for the consultancy company that we work with as well, which uses drama in training. So I think that's how I came to put the pirate show here, but we were inspired to write a show about pirates because of this incredible space, because it almost looks like it's an inside of a ship. And of course it has a sense of history to it as well, and so it seemed to be perfect for a pirate show. There's also a lot of interaction with the audience because the lights stay on, and the shared light is very good for that sort of piratical fun. And and so I think that's how I came to be the co-author of the pirate show.
Okay, I'm also very curious before we jump into Sara and Chris, because the title is billed as, co-written by yourself and Vanessa, but inspired by an idea that you and Aiden had, and I'm so curious about that story.
Well, I would love to say that we were having a bottle of rum together, but
that's what I'm picturing.
but Aiden doesn't drink, so it was just me. Maybe he wasn't even there.
You imagine Aiden there.
But we were talking about pirates, and we were also talking about sort of, because he's a playwright as well, as an extraordinary director and actor. And we were talking about sort of, wouldn't it be fun to do a pirate show, and how would one construct it, and who would be would they be fictional characters or historical characters? And then I said, well, what about Anne Bonny and Mary Read, because I knew about them. And he said, ooh, let's go down Wikipedia or wherever it was. So we ended at the end of the tunnel with a piece of information that a modern statue had been created of Anne Bonny and Mary Read by a sculptor called Amanda Cotton, and that it still existed. And it was huge, made of cast iron, 8 feet tall.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And we thought, ooh, that sounds good, because, statues coming alive, Winter's Tale, etc., etc. So we thought, let's start there. So that was the idea.
Okay.
That was the idea.
You. Okay, I was just so curious about that. Thank you. All right, Sara, tell us how you came to be the translator. How did you get your role in this?
I mean, mine is a little boring. I just got a call from Peter and Vanessa.
Okay.
And they were like, do you want to do this? And I said, yeah.
Well, surely you've done other translation work, right?
Yeah. One of my goals, I think, in my career as of late is to incorporate my language and my culture in classic works, specifically in Shakespeare. And it seems to be a trend that's happening in this country. There was a really cool bilingual Romeo and Juliet in California, I think, a couple years ago. And because I haven't had the opportunity much to perform in Spanish. And anywhere I go that I have a little sway, I'm like, so what if I just translate a line here and there? And that you can see it in the shows in R&J and Two Gents, where me and Angela in our scene speak in Italian, and then I switch over to Spanish a little later. And I think it's just, it's me trying to make my work more personal and relatable to the audiences, the ever-shifting cultures that come to these classical performances, who often think that they don't have a place in Shakespeare's world. And I think that's just like a goal of mine that I'm trying to put forth.
Yeah.
And we know that about you.
Yeah,
so obviously.
exactly, right. So they so graciously were like, hey.
Well, we came to see you doing Antony e Cleopatra,
That's
right?
right, I forgot. Wait, yes, wow, that feels like it happened so long ago. Yes, I performed and co-created an Antony and Cleopatra in Spanish and English, and I did a few speeches of Cleopatra in Spanish, and I mean, just because I don't speak Arabic, I'm like, well, I'm playing Cleopatra, so let me put myself into this role. And yeah, it was lovely. It was lovely to see y'all there. It was really great.
It was spectacular,
Yeah.
and I felt that sort of, with the Egyptians speaking Spanish and the Romans speaking English,
Right.
It definitely sort of, but the interesting thing was that, of course, the Egyptians could speak English when they wanted to, and that was really interesting,
Yeah, how language has power, and what does it mean when you shift a language to speak to someone very specific? What does that do to your emotions? What does that do to the tactics within the scene? What are you trying to get out of the person? Or what are your goals as a performer, as a character? So all that cool stuff.
It was really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Chris, talk to us about your musical journey. How did you come to get this part?
I bought a guitar once. And, I've been working with this company for 22 years. I mean, not the whole 22 years, but I started working here in 2003, and this was one of the big draws for me to want to keep working here, besides the fact that they kept asking me to, was that I got to, we played a lot of music, and it became a real integral part of not just the shows we were doing, but it became obviously a big part of the company. So through that, I really have kind of tried to managed to make a little bit of a career as not just an actor, as an actor musician, and that's kind of a thing out there where there are, when we're up here just playing our own music, there's a lot of other shows that have really embraced that, especially in like the last 10, 15 years or so. So I've kind of found a niche, and I've never been the musical director here. I've directed other things. Back in the day, we used to have a term when we would go on the road. Everybody would have a different job. So you could be asked to be the music guy or the music dude, as they would used to say. Right?
When you all wore Converse.
Yeah. So I was the music dude for a couple of seasons, which entailed a lot of the same things as when you were a music director. But this is the first season I got to really just be in charge of everything and picking everything and collaborating with everyone. And just so happened there was this pirate musical involved in it too. So I got to. It was an opportunity to actually put together the score for it, which I had never done before, and things like that. So it was a good challenge, but also it's a lot of fun. So.
Nice. So my questions can kind of be for everybody, but this first one. We'll start with Peter. So you were talking about the premise here is that the statues wake up, sort of Night at the Museum, Reader's Tale type of thing, but then you have sort of the framing device of the modern kid.
Yeah.
So where did that come from, and combining that with the shanties?
Well, I think it's pretty standard. I mean, I think like the kid is, oh gosh, what do they call it? They call it expositional surrogate. And probably the most famous example that people will recognize would be Harry Potter. So it's the fish out of water. You basically have a character who doesn't know the world. So Harry Potter doesn't know the wizarding world. So he has to ask everybody, or everybody has to tell him. So we as the audience or the reader get that information without it being sort of awkward as a sort of long diatribe of exposition. So that's why the kid is there, but also as generational inclusion as well. We felt that the pirates, by their very nature, would be of a certain age group, And so it would be nice to have somebody come in under. And also, you know, when you're a kid, I think that, and the kid is 17, so, you know, she's not 8. But I think, you know, she's on the cusp of adulthood. But I think, you know, as a kid, you have curiosity and you want to know about the world around you, and you also have opinions. And I feel that nobody's shut you up yet. You know, you haven't got a job yet where your boss says, okay, very interesting ideas, now just get on with it. So I think that that was interesting to have the kid there. So that's why, I mean, as far as shanties were concerned, I don't know whether it's a musical or a play with music, but I think that shanties are cheap. You don't have to pay anybody to do a shanty.
That's true.
And
What's in the public domain?
in the public domain, they're all
public domain
right.
here.
They're already written, and we know that they're successful. We know that they can be sung by, you know, the actors on stage who might not necessarily be, you know, trained singers as musical theatre, being in, you know, Les Mis or Wicked or anything like that, because the ranges are set to be a work song, because they're for sailors to work too, and so they're repetitive and they're easy to sing. And we thought that that would be a good formula. And then Vanessa and I wrote lyrics on top of these famous shanties. And also hoped that people might know a couple of them and sing along, which transpires that they do, and they do.
That's true. That's true. We do. We do. So this play is full of like actual historical facts and corrections of some of the record. And you know, there's no buried treasure, no walking the plank, but it's done sort of in a light-hearted way. So how did you all decide which historic things to poke fun at and which to give a little more gravitas? Did some of those arrive in staging, you know, or you know?
I mean, I think sort of the machinations of the bird and the bird sequence definitely arrived in
rehearsal.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I mean, it's all down to 2 people. I think really, it's and a couple of illustrators. It's down to Robert Louis Stevenson, who wrote Treasure Island in 1883, and he just made up a lot of stuff. And you know, so walking the plank was never a punishment. And a guy called N.C. Wyeth did illustrations, and he did the famous one where there's a guy blindfolded standing sort of horizontal on the plank like this, tied up, and everybody thought, what a cool image. And from that point onward,
Well, not for that guy.
that everybody, because of course if pirates wanted to execute you, they'd just chuck you off the ship. Why would they bother put a plank there? You know, and there's
The
a lot
drama.
What?
I know, but drama for who? I mean, for the fish?
Guys gotta stand there so the other person could draw 'em. I don't know.
So there's a lot of that. I mean, the other thing is, you know, treasure maps. Pirates, their careers were often very fleeting. Anne Bonny and Mary Read lasted for about a year, possibly a year and a half. So they burnt brightly, and then either got executed or disappeared, and or got killed in action. And so I feel that none of them buried any treasure because, you know, you spent the money that you got, and then once you spent it all, then you
Go look for more.
go look for more. I mean, you're a pirate, you know. You're not a banker, so and so it just, you know, it's just made up. And the whole thing of having a sort of an X marks the spot as well, again, totally invented by Robert Louis Stevenson. Nobody had ever thought of that before, but it's just a narrative, you know, technique to say, oh, that's what the kids could focus on, and probably create their own maps, which of course everyone did, you know. So and parrots, again, parrots, they definitely existed in the Caribbean, but they were extraordinarily valuable, and a pirate would want to sell a parrot, not keep it as a pet. And so, you know, it's again, it's from an illustration in the famous one of Long John Silver, where he's got a peg leg and he's walking, you know, in front of us, and so you can see his peg leg and his parrot and his tricorn. And that was the image that everybody took on, you know. Mm-hmm. The other person, of course, is Robert Newton, who was a famous actor, and he played Long John Silver in the 1950 Disney version of Treasure Island, and he came from the West Country. So when he was asked by the director to come up with a pirate accent, he used his own. He was born in Dorset, I believe, and so he just sort of riffed on his own accent, which was sort of and the interesting thing about the West Country accent is it hasn't this intrusive R, which is where all the pirate jokes come from. And so if you were from the West Country and you were going to say, I'm going to walk to the arsenal, you'd say, I'm going to walk to the arsenal. And that's how they speak there. And they drink a lot of cider, hard cider. And so he just riffed on that, and of course the movie was so successful that everybody just went, oh gosh, until there's even Talk Like a Pirate Day on the 19th of September, where everybody goes "arr" all day, So
if this guy would have been from like Brooklyn, it would have been completely
exactly. And of course, the reality would be that pirates on a pirate ship would come from everywhere, so they would probably be different nationalities, speak different languages, and different races and genders, etc., etc. So to have a sort of a standard piratical accent is just guff. It just obviously didn't happen. But we still believe that because we believe Hollywood years and years later, and it's just sort of sunk into. And also as kids, I think things that you learn as kid, you go sort of like we all feel we're dinosaur experts and stuff like that when we're not.
Speak for yourself. I definitely am. So how did you all balance that in performance or through the music? How did you find those funny moments, or what pirate stereotypes did we want to play up? There is a fair amount of "arr" and like poking fun at it.
Sure. I mean, I'm even thinking how we introduced the show, just getting everybody involved in it. I think it's you got to embrace it, don't you?
Yeah.
Right. Because if we're gonna be doing a pirate musical, it better be having some fun with it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you try to invite everybody to participate, and we, present bad pirate jokes, and just to see how they're, reacted to. Either way, we allow you to embrace the stupidity of it if you want to, or the fun of it. But yeah, so I think that you have to do that throughout, don't you? I think musically we certainly. I don't know that we were finding anything that was embracing that was true to the time period. We weren't going back and trying to figure out exactly what instruments would have been used at the time. But what we did do was kind of what is described in our show with the what weapons do you use? Well, whatever you got at hand, right? Mm-hmm. So it was just, what do we have around here? Right. What makes a weird noise? Okay, we'll give that to Joe, because Joe will play a lot of or Nick, they play a lot of the weird noise stuff, right? Like the big pan that we walk around here with to make during there's a lot of fun battle poem. The battle poem, right? And we have the what do you call it? The water
phone.
Yeah, all the things I don't know the names of. They're just sitting around, right? So there's a thrown together quality of it that's not really thrown together, but it is, right? I mean, we know what we're doing with it, and once we get a hold of it, it's like, well, this will be fun to play with, right? This will be fun to show, to make it obvious we're playing something that you don't normally see. Him and he's wearing his washboard like it's armor, It's I think that embraces the spirit of things.
And there is something to say about not hitting people over the head with historical facts, because then that would be a documentary. Like, just watch the History Channel, It's always fun to have this cultural touch point where you can make fun of the thing, or you can embrace the Hollywood swashbuckling of it, because that is what people know. This piece of art and this one person clearly influenced an entire society, and that's how we know pirates to be. So it's a really cool entryway for people to kind of poke their heads in and be like, I'm interested now, you have my attention. Yeah. Now tell me some facts.
And sing to me while you do it.
Yeah, Why not?
Absolutely. So one of those crossover sort of relatability points was in the language of the kid, right? The use of the blending of like the TikTok generation slang and also pirate slang and catchphrases and stuff. So how did that balance come about? What was the process of like picking which slang words to use from either era?
Well, I would say, and I'm going to pass it to you because I know you worked on it, a lot of it during the with Izzy during the rehearsal period. I would say that Vanessa and I said, well, the kid has got to. One of the funny things might be, because you never know whether people are going to find it funny or not, might be that the kid will talk to the pirates, and the pirates won't understand the kid. And vice versa, that could be funny. And so we thought, well, if the kid speaks, as you sort of notate as the TikTok generation, then we made some very clumsy attempts at trying to find, and of course it's all ephemeral. I mean, next week, everyone's saying things in a different way.
Right.
I mean, much less so when I was a kid, because then, you couldn't be influenced so quickly. So you kept hold of your slang for at least a couple of years before you had to change it. And it's always so that grown-ups can't understand what you're saying. I mean, that's basically the reasoning behind it. So we made a stab at it, and then we showed it to our daughter, and our daughter at various sort of points said, nah. If I was 10, I would say... And so we said, let's stop working on that. Let's hand it over to the director, amazing director Ali Babbage, and also to Sarah and to Izzy Sanchez, who plays the kid as well, and to move forward from there.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was found during rehearsal, during performance. I mean, I think as with anything, once you have the language in your bodies and you're moving around and you're seeing what the audience is reacting to, seeing what the other actors are reacting to, you're like, oh, let's shift this word, or let's maybe put this word here because it'll make a better punchline, or for whatever reason. And it happens with the slang as well, that, as you said, it's very ephemeral. Like, I think half of the things we say now, the kids aren't even, they're not even using today.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not like that into the TikTok world of it all. And another thing that was brought up is that a lot of this language is used textually. It's not even actually said out loud. It's written. It's in a written format. So to the young people using it, they never really hear it. They see it. Yeah, they see it and then have their own, depending on what context, have their own interpretation of the usage of it.
Like the connotations of it?
Exactly, connotations, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting to find out in the performances, when Izzy says, this could be goated. I've seen some younger kids be like, oh. I'm like, I don't know I don't, sure.
So 5 minutes
but it's great
ago.
for the pirates because we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Is there a ghost on board?
That was so, oh my gosh, I found that bit so funny. There was one time, I mean, this was very early stages, we were like, someone would say ba, backstage, and we're like, where's the goat? Once she said goat, or we looked around for the goat. It was great. I know. One bit too many. There is
Didn't
such a
make
thing
it to the final cut.
There is such a thing as too many bits in a show.
We'll agree to disagree on that. Says the clown.
I do remember being schooled when I was saying LOL to a much younger actor.
I say it too.
And she said, no, we say LOL. And it was like, great.
Okay.
I thought I was cool, but obviously not.
Well, on the opposite end of that, I mean, all the pirates are dead now, so they can't correct you on their slang.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when you've got those fun phrases, where did those come from?
Yeah.
Well,
Did you make them up? Did we have
Savvy.
Robert Louis Stevenson again? Or?
oh, I think that there's, you don't have to dig too far to find all the sort of, piratical phrases, all the nautical phrases, blistering barnacles. I think that was actually made up for Tintin. I think there's a pirate captain in Tintin, which of course was written in French because Serge, I think, is the author, and he's Belgian. And yes, and the Captain Blackbeard, I think he's called, probably, and he says blistering barnacles, and so therefore, and it's also alliterative and all the rest of that stuff. So that's where most of this all comes from. And so Vanessa and I just sourced everybody and say, what's your favorite pirate phrase? And then you sort of pick and choose the ones that, as you say, have rhythm, and that sort of may be interpreted in two different ways as well, are always good too. So there's an ambiguity, so that people can misunderstand, and then that can create comic situations. But I mean, most of them are funny anyway. I mean, deliberately so. I don't think any pirate, real, authentic, early 18th century pirate on the Caribbean would have said any of these things at all. I mean, I just don't think
Didn't
so.
say much.
Okay, that's fair enough. So I want to turn a little bit to the music for a second. So these, as you say, public domain sea shanty tunes. So talk to me about why you picked the ones that you picked. And then the process of sort of getting them ready for this stage. They don't necessarily, like, sea shanties don't necessarily start out having musical accompaniment at all. Necessarily. They're just tunes and they're chants.
What you're going to be
And-
working
right.
with and just sing.
Yeah. So,
as you're
so
doing
let's-
physical labor, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Or drinking.
Or drinking. Or drinking while doing
Rhythmically,
physical labor.
rhythmically, yes.
Were there other? I mean, how many songs did you look at when you were putting this together?
I would say
mean,
maybe like there was.
Did you find a greatest hits of the sea shanties? And
Absolutely. There were so many that we basically had to sort of accordion the whole decision-making process in. And there was a sort of ye olde book of shanties, 50. And sort of the ones that we couldn't find music to, we ignored. And then and then we listened to the tunes and we thought all those, and then we also had a gradation of fame, like how many people might know this.
Sure.
So and also would they be easy to sing? And the interesting thing about shanties, and I think we only really sort of this only came to mind later in the process, was that a lot of them are narrative. So they are narrative poems that generally have a sort of a verse and a chorus, and the verse usually tells the story of something nautical, and then the chorus is probably the actual
Right, the call and
moment that you're going
response,
to do
yeah.
the thing. So and that sort of fitted, because they can be very boring, just like anything repetitive.
And that was a worry, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like when this was first. And by the way, I have no previous expertise in like I'm an expert now in sea shanties. In all honesty, when we're playing some of these, I look around to see if there are people actually reacting, like they're hearing Freebird or something, like, oh hey, but they are all very repetitive, which makes it easy to play. And easy, but it also is, well, we gotta. This is why we have a director. It's because they're gonna. Allie Babbitt, she was gonna stage this, so it is up to her to make this interesting, to make this theatrical. But with musically, it's also just a challenge to keep that. There's maybe two of the songs that are particularly long, but I think that the staging of them and the commitment that you guys that you give to it just does care. It was like the second or third time we went through it, I went, oh, this isn't going to be a problem. Right? Because I was just like, it's a really long song, Allie. We might want to think about maybe having dialogue in the middle of it. Maybe to ask Peter and this if they want to add some lines in there. Then we played through it, I was like, oh no, it's all right. That's good. It's gonna carry through. This is good. Yeah. So.
Yeah, there was the process was a lot of devising how we're going to perform the songs, because ultimately we can't just stand here and park and bark, as we say, just stand here and sing the song. And they were originally for movement and for rhythm. I mean, you're in the pub, you're on the ship, like you're actively moving and telling a story, and that's what gets people through. So we had to be like, okay, well, at this point, I'm gonna move over here, I'm gonna go at a lower level, and I'm gonna tell the story like this, and this is the creepy part, or this is the inspirational part. And it took a lot of us being like puzzle masters and being like, okay, well, if you do that, then I'm going to go over here. So it was really fun.
And I will say this, is that this is a group that many of the actors are not used to doing, musical theater. This is their, and standing on a stage and just singing the words and not having anything to do, is a scary thing. And I think what you're just describing there is like but I do think that there are many moments in this show where those folks who do feel like, oh, I don't know if I can just stand there and sit, are doing that, and they're doing it very effectively. And it is a skill, and it's a skill that it's hard to do, obviously. But I think that you're underselling yourself sometimes. And
You're so right. You know what? Forget everything I said. I'm going to sit here
I win.
and sing.
Yeah, I win.
Bow down. Everybody bow down. Sarah, let's talk about the translation. So it got worked into the kid's identity that she speaks Spanish. Was that because you were brought on to translate, or was that part of the origin of the kid as a framing device in the first place? Do you guys remember?
Both?
I mean, I think that the idea was that the kid had to have a skill set that was important on a pirate ship.
Oh, right, so they wouldn't chuck
And
rocks
so
around.
we did some research to find out what were the skill sets that a kid could have. Language skills, being a linguist, as they called it, was a very, very sought after skill set, because of two reasons. First of all, it was likely that your crew didn't all speak the same language, so any interpreter between your crew would be very useful. Second, any ship that you plundered, possibly it might be helmed by a foreign power, and so most likely French or English or Spanish. And so if you had somebody who could ask somebody, where's your treasure, nice and quick, then that was very, very useful. And so when we found that out, we went, well, that, as opposed to all the other skill sets that were needed, for a pirate, that was something that perhaps the kid could have. Absolutely. And then, Sarah came on board, and of course, we knew we'd worked with you before, and that not only were you translating, but you were thinking about the narrative and the characterization, etc., etc. Yeah. And so that was how that transpired.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So and then it became, I guess, a conversation between you and Izzy, I suppose. Did you choose the moments when you wanted the Spanish to happen, or like how did you go about choosing those moments?
Peter and I spoke about the moments that we wanted this, where we wanted the Spanish, moments of pride, moments of maybe heightened emotion, moments of revealing something, maybe a secret or something difficult to express. And so it's really important to, I think, for a person to show that I'm going to go back to my roots, my original self, let's say, and it's easier for me to express myself in that language or in that mode. If you don't speak another language, I'm sure there's like not primal, but like, I don't know, a more personal way to express yourself that it feels more true to you, let's say. And so the moments when Izzy is talking to the quartermaster and saying, this is my skill, I'm really happy about it, I'm bringing this to the ship. The moment where she's fed up with me and she is expressing her frustration. And then the final moment when she's speaking to her mom and not sure whether or not she'll be accepted in her choice to explore the world and meet new people. Or cook new people. I'm very proud of that joke. It gets a laugh every time. And it, like you said, it was important to me for that to be woven into the character rather than just like random, where did that come from? Yeah. And I mean, especially today, I really wanted to showcase her Puerto Rican culture. And I want that to be part of whatever actor plays this part, whether they're Colombian or Spanish or, I mean, heck, Brazilian. Like maybe we could. I know Portuguese, so maybe we could like adjust some words. You know, like I speak French too, so I don't know. Like
It's a world tour.
It's a world. That's just something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm really grateful that I got brought on to be able to put those skills to the test. And the translation, like technically the way that happened, it's not easy, but it's easier to do a very black and white translation. Okay, like this is what I say here, so I'm gonna literally say this here and translate it. But because this is a performance and we're theater people, we have to actually give personality to what we're saying. And how does that flow? How do those sentences, right? Like how do those sentences flow in Spanish that differentiates in English? And even me and Izzy like tweaked a couple little words here and there. She added some Puerto Rican colloquialisms that she's used to saying, which not just for the character, but for the actor is very freeing. And you're able to bring a part of yourself that isn't normally showcased or even celebrated. So I think it was really important for the kid to be celebrated for that skill.
That you took the question right out of my mouth. I was going to ask, you know, we were talking about slang earlier, so I would imagine there would be some, like you said, colloquialisms from the linguistic culture.
100%, When she says, musicers huepa, or I don't know which what she says first, but that was something that we were thinking about. We're like, okay, so how can we insert?
It's really distinct.
Yeah, that's very Puerto Rican. Yeah, I know. I'm surprised we didn't like put a little Puerto Rican flag on her backpack because that's a thing.
Can you think of any other linguistic little Easter eggs that people might want to listen out for? Because now
huepa's one.
Sort of pricked up for that.
That might be the biggest one. I mean, just her accent too when she speaks. But like, I could pick up on different accents in the Spanish-speaking world. So just her accent, I'm like, oh yeah, I hear that. Oh yeah, she says her mom is Boricua rather than Puerto Rican. That's a colloquialism. I can't really think of any now, but it'll come up to me.
Sure.
Come to me.
Well, if anybody here knows, now you know, just to listen out for it. I have maybe one more question, and then I'll open it up to everybody else. So if let's talk about the audience for a second. You use the audience. I mean, we always use the audience as much as we can in this space. What was the plan, and then how did it go for using the audience in this production? Or like, what inspired you to? Which parts are you inspired to work with the audience on?
Yeah, because usually, I mean, in a Shakespeare show, you are included into it, but this is a presentation that it is literally. You are going to be, we are going to address you. We are going to ask you to literally ask you to hold this parrot, It's different, but I don't know. I don't think it doesn't feel foreign at all to ask for the participation.
And the singing.
The singing, right? And I hope that what we do in the, before the show starts, in the pre-show, and inviting, like you might want to get involved. I think that I hope that people realize, this is that kind of show, right? But yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty Shakespearean. I mean, I think there's evidence that the clowns would be, warm-up characters. Sort of Richard Tarleton, who's a very famous clown. There's documentation of him sort of like peeping behind the curtain before the shows, coming out onto the stage, making jokes, juggling, falling over, doing stuff like that to get everybody, riled up. And also I feel that the most important thing is that Vanessa and I wrote the pirate show bespoke for this space. So we are also looking at all the incredible things that the actors have brought to this space and their skill set and how the audience react to them. And so we've just built it into the show. So that the other important thing I think is that, any sort of show that is in shared light and the comedy that surrounds that allows people to be engage with the audience and the audience to engage with them instantly without thinking or feeling uncomfortable. Because I feel that, when the audience is in the dark, they feel that they're sort of separated in some way, shape, or
You get to
form, even though
hide a
you're
little
breathing
bit.
the same air. But when you all see each other, you quickly realize that, you can interact with each other, even if it's just a little look and a wink. It doesn't even have to be something big. But Vanessa and I definitely wanted to inject that audience participation, on the ground level, so that then the director and the actors could then, up it by 10, so that the audience interaction is embedded in the piece. I mean, somebody asked me about subversiveness in the piece, and about sort of any political notions, about any agendas. And I always feel that, it's in there if you want it, and if you don't, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
I always think of sort of Aristophanic comedy, which in the 5th century Athens, Aristophanes was a really famous comic. And of course, he would write all these political plays, and a famous one would be The Wasps, which was a satire on the legal system in Athens. And everyone came to the Dionysia, so the whole of Athens, apart from women and slaves, of course. So they all watched it, but that meant that the most senior people and the people of power were in the front row. And so the whole of the city could see their reaction. And I think and they were very litigious society as well. But the one place you couldn't sue anybody was if they were on the stage, because it was religious. And so that's where the greatest satire happened.
Let's bring that back.
I know. And
You can't be litigious on what I say. You cannot hold me accountable for anything I do or say on this stage.
Everybody signed a waiver.
Yeah, but I love that the interaction that each individual actor, or as a whole, or anybody who's designing for the show as well, they have with the audience, can be whatever they want it to be. You can make it political if you want, and if you don't, then you just have to, laugh at the scatological humor, of which there's plenty.
That's true. Well, speaking of including our audience, are there any questions from you all? Yes.
What happens to the play when it closes next weekend?
Great question.
Yeah.
Great question.
Yes, what does happen to it? Well, no, I think that, first of all, any new play, obviously, it goes through a development process. And I feel that the pirate show can still be developed. And I think that there's more to be looked at, both musically, maybe there's an added song to put in, both with the Spanish, maybe there's, thoughts about different languages being used. So it's like all plays, it's not like a film. It doesn't sort of, it's not set. And so I think that there's a development process that is going to happen. I mean, I'll tell you that Schaffer wrote Amadeus, and there's 4 published versions of it. Because obviously it's a famous and brilliant play, but he changed his mind over a 25-year period. And continuous looking at it, go, I think it should be this, not this, and I think it should be that. Yeah. So I think that obviously the pirate show is not Amadeus. What? But but I think it is going to. I think it is going. But I think it is going to change, and hopefully there will be many people who are part of that influence. I think that Vanessa and I want to keep it as flexible as possible, so that whoever wants to produce it in the future can really put themselves into it and feel that they own it themselves, and that also the audiences themselves will feel that they can own it. There's definitely little pockets where you could, inject sort of, a local humor, or sort of, like a sports team or anything like that. There's always opportunities to make it bespoke to any community when they want to put it on. And that's how it's been designed. So I don't know. Any producers in town?
You got a lead? Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
So when you and Vanessa wrote or were working on the script, did you have a certain theme or feel in mind? Because I know when I saw the final dress rehearsal and the play itself after that, there was a very clear vision that I had of bringing 2 elements and that's what this was. And then a week or two later, someone else said, no, I saw this. I said, did you have a certain thing? So you tell me what you thought, and I'll tell you what I saw.
A quid pro quo. I don't know whether that's a good deal for me. No, I would say that we wanted to be the pirate show, first of all, to be fun and short, but also to be, I think, to have what one would call the Pixar quality, meaning that kids could enjoy it, adults could enjoy it, you could see what you wanted to see, and you would ignore what you wanted to ignore. So I think that was really the theme, but the theme behind, and there are many themes that one can look at historically that surround these two iconic pirates, and a lot of them, revolve around gender. And I feel that we didn't want to hide that or any of those conversations, but we didn't want to be prescriptive. We didn't want to tell people what you should think about this, these actual people in history. I mean, the fun fact about them is that, the only authentic that we can say is authentic documentation of them is the trial transcript from 1720 and the surrounding journalism that sort of sprung from that. But everything else is pretty well made up. I mean, it would be based on truth, but the first book that came out was 4 years later, called the General History of the Robberies and Murders of the Most Notorious Pirates, and it was a big hit. We don't know who wrote it because it was a pen name. Maybe it was a publisher, but within years it was going through different editions, and of course, Mary and Anne's name got bigger and bigger and bigger, which was very interesting, and the prints of them inside got scantier and scantier and scantier. So it was very obvious that this was all about selling books, and their name and who they were, and any history that surrounded them started to evolve into whatever people of that particular period in time felt was going to be marketable from selling books. And that changed. I mean, it changed a lot. I mean, in Victorian times, Mary was always portrayed as a fallen woman, somebody who'd got in with a bad crowd. And Bonny was, sort of one step away from a harridan and, of a little virtue. And then when you moved into the 1960s, then, Mary became non-progressive and antiquated because she wouldn't sleep with anyone outside of marriage. And Anne Bonny became sort of, an icon of radical feminism. And it's interesting how we as a society always reflect our own wants and needs onto these fictional characters. I mean, based on actual real facts, which are tiny. If we wrote a show with the authentic facts in it, it would last maybe 3 minutes.
Just a quick little dumb show before everything else. Yeah.
But I always feel like with Anne Bonny and Mary, when people say, oh, they're the only female pirates that existed. Well, of course, that's rubbish. There were many, but I always feel that it's a bit like, and here's a New York reference. It's a bit like when you go into your New York apartment kitchen and you see one cockroach, and there's more. So I think there's more female pirates who must have existed. They just didn't get recorded in the history books, which were all written by white men as well. So who knows what prejudices were applied to them and their story. But if you want to know a fun fact, the most successful pirate ever recorded is absolutely a woman, and her name is Chang Shu, and she's Chinese, Cantonese. And she was so powerful, she had a fleet of 300 to 600, depending on who you read, ships. And she basically blocked off the main trading route and ransomed sorry, and what's the word? Not ransom.
Like put a toll?
Yeah.
Just shook them down.
The trade route so that they couldn't the Chinese government couldn't actually, or the emperor couldn't trade anymore, and she also was never hung, and she was never killed, she was never executed. She lived to be a nice old lady with a big
Got
family.
away with it too?
So like super successful
Who knows where
pirate.
she is today?
And she was at like the early 1800s. So after almost 100 years after Anne Bonny and Mary Read.
Wow.
Yeah.
Other questions? So Suze was going to share with us.
Oh, yeah.
Takeaways. Yeah. What did you see?
The impression after the show was, this is Pirates of the Caribbean meets Monty Python.
That's not inaccurate.
And about a week later, someone said, no, it's Night at the Museum meets Monty Python.
Oh.
It's Muppet Treasure Island.
Yes, I definitely caught this parrot is deceased.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Parrot is.
Ex-parrot.
Yes.
Questions? Other questions?
I just want to say thank you for the joyous, all of you for the joyous experience of the play. It was just such a gift. So thank you.
Oh.
And, also regarding music, not only this play but every play, I anticipate what will the playlist be, and I see the characters, I feel the characters differently if it's a play I knew than I ever had before, and I just thank you for that. It's just been so enriching, and I wonder if do the actors as a whole contribute to the musical selections?
Yeah.
Is it a group?
Not with this show, right? I mean,
Right,
this one's here, right? But whenever like right now, we're about to start a Christmas Carol in a week and a half. I'm the musical director for that too, and I've just gotten a whole bunch of suggestions from the cast for what they think they want to perform, like in the pre-show and the interlude. So yeah, there's a whole collaboration that we go through to get these up on their feet and try to get everybody involved who wants to be involved, and people who don't want to be involved don't have to be. Right? So yeah, no, it's one of the reasons I've always liked being here, because you get to kind of be in a band with a bunch of people you're close with. You get to be close with for a few months, and it's a real joy. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I was going to say, so how does the show, speak with R&J and Two Gents and all of them together? And then is there anything you've learned to speak to each other through the process of doing it for several months as we get to the end of the season?
I mean, I can speak to one tiny thing, because I remember talking to Ali about it, and Jeffrey Warren Barnes II, who plays multiple roles in the pirate show, but also plays the clown in Two Gents, and has to wrangle the dog, who is always the star of the show. And he has a line where he says, "What a dog's breakfast." And I remember Ali sort of turning in the pirate show, and Ali turning around and said, that's a sort of like a rep Easter egg for people who sort of realize that, oh gosh, that's the same actor who deals with the dog and is now saying that something is a dog's breakfast, meaning that it's bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the more you look for it as actors themselves, but also as the audience, the more you can see and find connections. I mean, it is one of the most exciting forms of theatre to do rep, where you see the same actors do 3 different shows.
The linguist, and then the linguist and the pirate.
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and there's outlaws and pirates as well, and
Land pirates. That's what
Right.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also, it just popped into my head, like me and Maya, Maya plays the nurse in R&J, and Sylvia in Two Gents, and her and I kind of like, not opposites, but we're always like communicating with each other. We're always like in the same situation as Lady Capulet and the nurse, and then Sylvia and Julia, and now Mary and Anne. It's really cool to have that same relationship, but in different circumstances and time periods.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. If someone comes to see all 3 shows, maybe like in one weekend, they're like, oh, look how that ships. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that, on the overlap in general? Or?
Glad not to be playing a questionable dad.
Yeah.
So it's fun for me.
Nice. I did catch there was a callback to the rep that you and Britt shared.
Oh my goodness.
To being earnest. There's a
Yes, and that's a classic
So-
example.
earnest moment.
Yes, so that was me and Britt. Because the line was in the play anyway, and during the process we were like, what if we just insert this tiny little bit as an Easter egg for people who come to the ASC often, over the course of years, and remember us playing Cecily and Algernon last year.
Yeah.
So what if we kind of just like give that tiny little moment, and there was a point where I saw someone in the back react like, and I was like, that's who we're doing it for. That little, which of course like probably won't happen if this play is produced elsewhere. It just so happens that because this was made bespoke for this theater, and these 2 actors happen to play the roles that are mentioned when Jeffrey comes and says, what is this importance of being, like it just so happens that configuration worked, and we came up with that silly little, that was really fun.
But hopefully, I mean, the structure is flexible enough for every cast and producers to find their own little sort of fun bits that they can suddenly connect and go, and I feel that the piece is silly enough to give people permission to do that. That's what we would want.
We have time for one more question. Yes. I would love to hear about the collaboration between the 2 of you when you wrote this play. And forgive me if that was addressed earlier, I came in a little bit late. How did you work together to...
Well, we've written lots of stuff together, and I would say that in general terms that, and this was to do with the conversation with Aidan about what was the idea to begin with. In general terms, I think that Vanessa will have a thought about how to practically do something, and then I will face the blank page and structure, because I think that's where my forte is, and then we'll go through dialogue and characters together. But in general terms, I always say it in very simplistic terms, is that I start and Vanessa makes it better.
Yeah.
That's a very kind thing to say. It's a big deal to face the blank page.
It is.
I can add since I'm here. I know that one of the things that we discovered through the process of writing is how different moments inspired us based on what the cultural conversation was. So it's really exciting to think of pirates as always being on the outskirts of society, and that they're, when we come into the Blackfriars Playhouse, if you look around, it almost feels like we're on the inside of a ship. And here we are as this community that, and artists often are seen as these sort of rule breakers on the outsides of society that are often commenting on it or capturing authenticity and bringing it to us to experience in this incredibly brave way. And, and to think of a pirate ship as being this sort of icon of democracy, being able to gather everyone in space together and essentially sing a sea shanty together while talking about, while simultaneously sort of reimagining Playhouse as a rehearsal space for democracy. I think that's one thing that really inspired us all the way through the writing of it.
Definitely. Yeah. We also very rarely agree, which I think is great. when we're doing our adaptations of Shakespeare for the 50/50 Shakespeare project, we very rarely agree, and it's the conversation that forces, which I think is the most joyous part of our collaboration, so that we eventually come to a place where we do agree, which I wish we would all do that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better way to end than that. So.